I was at the bank a few days ago and there was an elderly customer ahead of me. She had her savings in Canadian dollars. She wanted to go on a trip to the US and she got a lot fewer US dollars than she had expected to get or what she had gotten 10 years, 12 years, 15 years ago. And she was talking to the teller about this. She was mentioning how the Canadian dollar has lost a ton of its value and how it's difficult for her to go visit her family and her friends. It's pretty clear from this chart that the Canadian dollar is struggling against the US dollar, and I think things are going to get worse. So we can see here in August of 2012, one US dollar bought one Canadian dollar. So it was in parity. Today, one US dollar buys $1.45 Canadian. So if you have 100 Canadian dollars, you can only get 69 US dollars in exchange. This reminds me of the Roman currency, the denarius, which was supposed to be made up of a certain amount of silver, and how over time, the amount of silver in those coins decreased until there was barely any silver left. So we can see from this chart here the silver fineness, the amount of silver percentage of weight in silver on the y-axis, and you can see the time or the year on the x-axis, on the horizontal axis. This is the fineness of early Roman imperial silver coins. So the amount of silver in these coins went from something like 95% all the way down to maybe 35% down here during the 3rd century crisis. If you can see the colors here, the pink, debasement is the action or process of reducing the quality or value of something, and it's pretty clear that the Canadian dollar is being debased. We know for a fact that more and more dollars are being printed and added to the economy. The government is going further and further into debt, and Canadians are hurt by this because their savings are decreasing in value. Over time, you can buy fewer and fewer things because the value of your dollar is decreasing. The savings that you have in your bank account are worth less and less every day, and you can see this when you go to the grocery store. I found some pictures of flyers. I believe these are from 1997. If I zoom in here, we can see that quarter pound burgers were 59 cents each. Today, you're probably going to be paying $1.50, $2, even $2.50 for a quarter pound burger. Chicken breast skinless, $2.49 a pound. Now you're paying $8, $9, $10 a pound sometimes, even more. If we scroll down here, Pepsi, Coke, I don't generally get pop, but I think I've seen bottles for $3.49. In this case, they were 99 cents. Peaches, 3-pound basket, $2.99. Today you're paying $3, $4 a pound for peaches. And the next one here, toilet paper 8-roll package for $2.49. Today you're paying $1.25, $1.50 a roll. And over time it just keeps increasing. We can see a potato chip bag here for 99 cents. Today you're paying $3.49, $4.99, $5.49 for Lay's for the same exact product. If we scroll down, we can see peppers, 99 cents a pound. Today you're paying $3.49 a pound. The prices of everything just keep going up because more and more dollars are going to continue chasing everything that you want. All of the food that you want, all of these things that we see on these flyers, they're going to continue to get more and more expensive. We can see here, chicken or turkey burgers, box of 8, 1.13 kilograms for $7.99. Today you're going to be paying $20 for a box of chicken or turkey burgers. The reason why I'm mentioning all of this is because food is energy. We need energy to survive. If our food is becoming less and less abundant, it means we have less energy. It means more and more people are going to starve to death. More and more people aren't going to be able to function because they don't have the right amount of energy in their body to survive. Everybody's going to need food no matter what. Everybody's going to need to eat no matter what because we need energy to live. Even though more and more of our foods are produced mechanically, we're seeing that our prices are increasing, even though the inputs are decreasing. They're putting fewer and fewer high quality products on our shelves, and we're still paying more and more for our food. Bitcoin is generational wealth, and to secure it, you need to make sure that you take self-custody. Most of you still haven't taken self-custody, and you're taking a serious amount of risk by leaving your Bitcoin on an exchange. Don't be one of those people who lost all of their Bitcoin by leaving it on an exchange that went bankrupt. Instead, reach out to the cybersecurity experts at The Bitcoin Way. Their patient and thorough one-on-one training teaches you how to self-custody your Bitcoin properly, how to run your own Bitcoin node and protect your privacy, and how to set up de-Googled privacy phones to make sure that nobody is spying on you. They can even help you explore Plan B residency programs to maximize your family's options. So when you're ready to go down the right rabbit holes, schedule a free consultation at www.thebitcoinway.com/Rajat. The best investment you can make is buying Bitcoin. The second best investment is securing it properly. Make sure that you don't delay because your generational wealth and self sovereignty are at stake. Go to www.thebitcoinway.com/Rajat to schedule a free consult today. I wanted to look into why the Roman Empire fell, and we can see here it fell due to a combination of factors, including economic crisis, political instability, and military decline. Overspending, so the government was constantly in wars, they were overspending, and they depleted all of their financial resources. So they gave away all of their savings with these constant wars by constantly destroying value, by spending way too much on luxury. The next one, trade deficit. The empire had a large trade deficit with the eastern regions. So we can actually see that both of these are the case with the US today. They're the case for Canadians today as well. Canadians are at the highest levels of debt that they've ever been. You can see here, hoarding, Roman citizens hoarded bullion, so they didn't want to trade. They didn't want to give away their money because the money that the government had produced was a scam. They were getting paid in these denarius coins that were constantly losing value. They were worth less and less silver over time. And then the next one, barbarians looted the Roman treasury. A barbarian is a person or tribe of people that is perceived to be primitive, savage, and warlike. Many cultures have referred to other cultures as barbarians, sometimes out of misunderstandings and sometimes out of prejudice. So it is supposed to be almost like an offensive term, but it seems like it just says people with no morals, people who don't really care about the society, people who don't really care about the people around them. They're more worried about their own small group of people. And just to contrast with that, Canada has become the car theft capital of the world, meaning that there are more and more people who don't really care about society, more and more people who are stealing from others, who are taking away their wealth, who are taking away the things that they saved for, that they put money away for a very long time, and they're being stolen from. This is what happens in a society where people don't care about each other. The Canadian dollar is suffering against the US dollar, but now let's take a look at the US dollar compared to Bitcoin. So we can see here the US dollar has lost 55.62% of its value in terms of Bitcoin over the last year. So if you had saved in US dollars instead of Canadian dollars, you would have gained like 8%. But if you had saved in Bitcoin instead of US dollars, you would have gained another 110%. And now the exchange rate between Canadian dollars and Bitcoin, 58.86% loss. The Canadian dollar isn't even close to being the worst currency in the world or anything like that. But if you're saving in Canadian dollars, I think you're putting your finances at risk. Over time, this is going to keep decreasing. If we take a look at 5 years, we can see the Canadian dollar is down 90.69% in terms of Bitcoin. If you go to max, the Canadian dollar is down 99.6%, and that's since May 6th of 2016. In the same period, the US dollar has lost 99.53% of its value. So you went from being able to buy 220,000 Satoshis to buying only about 1,000 Satoshis for every US dollar that you have. I honestly don't know if this is going to be cyclical. I don't know if the Canadian dollar will suddenly gain back its value in terms of US dollars at some point. But I do know for a fact that the Canadian dollar and the US dollar are going to always lose value in terms of Bitcoin. Just like the currency in the Roman Empire, the denarius, the US dollar is going to constantly be debased until nobody wants US dollars anymore. And it's just seen as a piece of paper that you can't trade with. There will be more and more dollars printed, more and more US dollars created, more and more Canadian dollars created, and there's only going to be a finite number of Bitcoin. So what I would recommend that you should do, if you're Canadian, if you're US, it doesn't matter where you're from, buy Bitcoin. Exchange some of your dollars for Bitcoin because over time you're going to see that your purchasing power is going to increase because there's a finite number of Bitcoin and because there's an infinite number of dollars. Even if you can only put away as little as $2.50 a day, do it. I think it's going to be worth it. If Bitcoin gives you an average annual rate over that period of 35%, you're going to see that by 2040, so in 15 years, you're going to have $493,000. I know that the purchasing power of that is going to be a lot less than it is today, But remember, your investment is only $13,687. So let's say, for example, if the Canadian dollar and the US dollar lose 50% of their value in that period, you're going to see that you still have $250,000. So your $13,687 turned into $250,000 in real purchasing power. If the US dollar loses 70% of its purchasing power, then of course you still have $150,000. If you were to put this money into the stock market instead, by 2040, you'd have $31,000. So if the US dollar loses, let's say 70% of its value, you didn't even make anything. So you would have invested $13,000. You would have $31,000. If it loses 70% of its value, this is worth only about 9,000. So you lost value if you put money into the stock market because the inflation rate is going to get really high. As these governments print more and more money, they start adding more and more money to the economy. Inflation is going to increase. The purchasing power of your dollar is going to decrease over time. So no matter how much you can put away, just do it. Bitcoin can't be debased. That's the best thing here. The most important thing here is that you can't debase Bitcoin. Nobody can manipulate the Bitcoin network. Nobody can take away your Bitcoin. Nobody can create more Bitcoin and add it to the economy. On the other hand, they can do that with Canadian dollars. They can do that with US dollars. So if you can put away $5 a day by 2040, you'll have $63,000 in the stock market. If Bitcoin gives you a 35% return by 2040, you'll have almost $1 million. So your purchasing power from this drops by 70%. You're going to have about $300,000 in purchasing power in today's money in 2040. So you would have gone up 10x. With the stock market, like I said, you would have lost money. So in 2040, you would have 63,000. If the US dollar loses 70% of its value, you're down to about 15, 20K. So whether you're Canadian, you're American, wherever you're from, save in Bitcoin, don't save in currencies. Don't save in stocks because they're not going to give you a high enough return for you to actually protect yourself against debasement.